Welcome back, Netrunners. I'm Bob Picker, and I'm joined here with Nick.
Hello.
And it's just going to be me and you, I think, today.
Cool.
So we're going to do the second pack of the MUMBAD Cycle, which is called Business First, because you don't want to go second.
No.
Okay. So with that, we've got some interesting cards, but the meta's definitely changing every day, it seems like.
All Faust all the time.
All the Faust all the time. And Fast Advance.
Yes.
So those two things. So let's see if any of these cards may help that problem. Or maybe not a problem if you like to play that way. So anyway, Nick, why don't you start us off with the first card on the runner side? First
up we have Anarch Hardware EMP device. Installs for one. It's hardware with a new subtype of bomb. It has an ability which is trash. The corp cannot res more than one piece of ice for the remainder of this run. Use this ability only during a run. And it's 4 influence.
It's not going anywhere else except Anarchs, which they need any more programs or any other tools.
I mean, it's an interesting... I guess it's sort of there's a combo built in there with DDoS.
DDoS doesn't let you res any ice.
Doesn't let you res the first piece.
The first piece, so then you can't,
Presumably you could still res one piece after that, but that's a real messy server that you're gonna pop both of those on.
Possibly.
Maybe? I don't know. I don't know. That seems like the obvious way to go with this.
And then if you throw Run Amok in there at the same time,
maybe so. I don't know what to do with this thing. I'll be honest. It's interesting.
Unless it's just a total denial type style deck where you want to play Apocalypse or something like that.
Maybe. Well, you're not gonna. Well, I guess you could put Apocalypse in some kind of, maybe a max shell.
Something like that. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of is you got your DDoS, you got this. It's kind of like DDoS Lite.
Yeah. I feel like this is a card that I'm going to lose to at some point and not know why.
It's like, oh, he just put off the bomb. Yeah, I hear you. I think there is some synergies. I see it in an Apocalypse type deck. You're going to trash this anyway, so you might as well get the use out of it. You got to get it in a server or whatever to get that run into the 3 centrals.
Sure.
So I think that's another way. You can break one piece of the ice. You hit this so you can get all the other central servers.
Maybe so.
But it says only for this remainder of this run. So
yeah, they
can still res a piece of ice on that server.
Yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know where this thing goes right now.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just missing something.
The art's awesome though.
Neat art. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So, okay. Well, onward and upward. So I get Diwan, which I guess is a type of poetry.
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
It's a type. So anyway, but it's a 1 cost. It's a 1 memory virus, which is always good.
Like those.
So, but it's only 1 influence. It says when day 1 is installed, choose a server. As an additional cost to install a card in or protecting that server, the corp must pay 1 additional credit. Trash Darwin if the corp purges viruses. So it's just a cheap virus. It basically makes the cost of stacking ice more expensive, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think that Noise plays this over Lamprey, at least not until Lamprey rotates out.
Yeah. I guess that's the way I see it too. I was trying to think, is there, if you're playing Glacial, if Glacial's big in your meta, maybe?
Some of the ETF decks are running servers that are just stacking just piles of upgrades in them.
Yeah.
And maybe it's got some utility there, but ETF already has so much money that extra credit might just be worth it to them, especially if it's their first install for the turn.
It cancels that out.
Right. And you're probably not going to put this on a remote. I'm not a huge fan, but it's an interesting comparison to Lamprey.
Yeah, and if you put multiples out, right? So it'd have to be, if you got multiples out, then it's like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
You're paying 3 potentially to put a card.
I wouldn't want to put a bunch of these on one server.
I'm just throwing it out there.
No.
As if you did that, it's like, okay, well then I got to purge viruses.
I always want to find a way to use cards that don't seem immediately just better than something else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a cheap virus. I mean,
it's interesting that it's 1 influence. I really want to see another runner that cares about viruses, but I don't know if we're ever going to really see that.
Yeah, I would like. Wouldn't that be cool to have another virus type action or
just something else to interact with viruses.
Yep, exactly.
Would be kind of neat.
Yep. Okay.
All right, I have
Back to you.
CBI Raid. It's a criminal event, run, sabotage for 3 credits. Make a run on HQ. If successful, instead of accessing cards, the Corp adds all cards in HQ to the top of R&D in the order of his or her choice. It's 2 influence, and this was the card that was designed by the 2013 World Champion, Jens Eriksson.
It just took them 3 years to get out.
Yeah, it took a little bit.
It's only 2 influence.
Mm-hmm.
It is a run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's got all the things that like Kenny would like to have, or any criminal would like to have.
Yeah, this guy has the potential to be very disruptive.
Yeah, the thing is it doesn't give them cards back in hand, so then they have to draw back up to their hand size, which is even worse.
Yeah, they're almost certainly gonna be losing a turn just getting their hand set back up. Great flavor on this card, though. Absolutely fantastic to just run at the Corp and force them to hide everything.
Yeah. Interesting. It'd be interesting to see like where you have like cerebral imaging where they have the big hands.
Oh, that'd be
it's like, oh yeah, you put 12 cards back on top.
Oh sure, yeah, I can see something like that happening.
That would be kind of interesting. Yeah, but do you see this being multiples, or do you see this like a splash card?
I think this is more of a splash card. I think it's something that maybe you are holding on to disrupt them
at that moment where they have all the agendas in their hand, and it's like, and you got a Maker's Eye in hand, maybe.
Maybe that would be something like that would be a good little 1-2 hit. Maybe I think Leela probably can find a spot for this. That's not super consistent to count on getting those agendas, but you can maybe hit them for that extra bit if they've got like a res Sansan or something. I guess it wouldn't work exactly that way since she can't bounce a res one. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You bounce something, then it ends up in their
hand, and then back, and then you can have them put it back on top and figure out which way they want to get it.
Sure.
Yep. Yeah, I think I could see this in like where you have like medium or R&D interfaces, and you want everything back in R&D so you can actually go after it, because you maybe can't get into HQ very easily.
Yeah.
You do that one time, and it's just like, okay, I'm in there, and then I can get into R&D.
Sure.
Yep. Okay. Back to me. I've got the next resource. It's a criminal resource. It's one cost to play. It's a connection. It says whenever you use a trash ability, gain 1 credit. It's only 1 influence. It's Tech Trader. So, great card. Oh my gosh, Geist loves it.
They gave Geist an economy, so
Geist
it's going to get some
scary.
play in that. There was a Geist deck floating around at our last store championship. I did see it being played. It's a real fun looking deck. I haven't had the chance to try it out myself yet, but I think I might put it together soon.
That could be. I could see money big time.
Oh sure, you get more than one of these down in a Geist shell. You've got a very good economy engine, especially something like Fall Guy becomes a card that you can pop
for 5 credits.
Maybe 5 credits, maybe 4 credits. You get that card, and you're doing that at a responsive speed.
Mortos Gang.
Mm-hmm.
You throw the Mortos Gang down to and then just pop everything back up.
Oh sure.
Yeah, you could gain 10, 15 credits, I think, easily in 1 turn.
Especially if you're playing Geist's Cloudbreakers.
Yeah,
because those are also generating you money as you use them up.
Yeah, you just have to wait and recycle stuff, and you'd be set.
And that deck plays that stuff.
Yeah,
so
just pull stuff back around. Well, cool. Yeah, I think you're going to see this play. I could see that played in a lot of different decks. I mean, just easy economy, especially Geist. So yours.
All right. Next up, we have NetChip. It is Shaper hardware, consumer grade, so you get 6 of them. It's a chip. 1 credit to install. NetChip can host a program with a memory cost less than or equal to the number of copies of NetChip installed. The memory cost of the hosted program does not count against your memory limit. Limit 6 per deck. And 2 influence.
That's a good card. I mean, it's probably the best piece of consumerware we've seen.
It's
definitely out of the 2 we've seen.
Sure. I definitely like it more than the Ramajan Reliant. I almost always want this over an Akamatsu Mem chip.
Yeah, we were talking about that last night. I think the other night, and it was like, it's like there's no downside necessarily with this chip over the Akamatsu. So,
couple of very strange edge cases that you need to prepare for. I think that the real question for this is how do you utilize the memory that this is going to be generating when you got a bunch of these installed. I'm seeing some experimentation with Hyperdriver. Conceivably, you could do something with Endless Hunger, maybe.
Endless Hunger, how would Endless... I can see the
Well,
Hyperdriver because it's 3 costs.
Well,
3...
Endless Hunger is 4 memory.
Oh, 4 memory. So you
Yeah.
throw 4 of these down, you get Endless Hunger posted on one of these.
Right.
And then it's like for free. Then you don't just choke.
Well, that's what I'm. That's where my initial thought goes when you've got something like this that is posting something that's going to be more than 1 or potentially 2 memory units.
Yeah.
That you want to make the most out of that resource that you're building for yourself.
Yeah. So you use that for those 2 things. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and then when you get done with it, you know, before it goes to the trash or whatever, you Aesops it for $2.
Sure. Maybe put a leprechaun on top of it and
have it multiple chain.
Yeah, and just get some stuff on that leprechaun. You know, because you can.
Because you can.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, what else is high expensive memory costs? A hive mind, but see, you got to do it out of Shaper because the influence is so high.
Right.
I mean, that's the problem. Is you can't. It's not going to be in Criminal. It's not going to be in for sure Anarch. So it's got to be a Shaper deck of some sort.
Sure.
Unfortunately. All right.
We'll have to see.
We'll see. So I've got the next event. It's the next current event actually. It's a 3 cost to play. It's called Corporate Scandal. I love the art. This is amazing. It's like a bad Nisei.
Yeah, whole batch of clones went wrong.
It's like the bad part of it. Anyway, it's the Mark IV, right? Instead of the Mark II?
I hope not.
This card is not played until another current is played, as any other current says. It says, the Corp has 1 additional bad publicity, even if they have 0. This may be Val's best friend.
I think Val likes this if you are seeing a lot of decks that are teching against bad publicity, and you are seeing that with Elizabeth Mills seeing a little bit of play in Blue Sun decks.
Or Expose.
Expose, sure.
Out of MDN.
Yeah, so. to get your blackmails. This might actually be the best blackmail enabler.
It makes blackmail be able to play out of any faction.
Yeah, if you're not playing Val, this is probably the way to go for that.
It's 1 influence, so it's not going to kill you on influence.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see this in a Jesminder deck.
Something
with
like that.
blackmail.
Jesminder and blackmail and Jesminder. I could see something like that working. Yeah.
I mean, to help her out, get through, to get her ability and everything else, is, to run through some ice when you need to.
I could potentially see something like that working. Yeah.
But the art's just amazing.
Yeah, definitely a win on the art on this one.
All right. So last, this is a short pack for runner cards.
Yeah, just 7 unique runner cards in this pack. Next up, we have Populist Rally. It's a neutral event for 2 credits. Play only if you have at least 1 CD card installed. Most of the clubs are CD.
Wildside, Duggars.
Yeah.
The Street Peddler.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's actually CD.
Okay.
So,
is Aesop's? No, I don't think Aesop's is CD.
No, I don't
okay.
think it's...
But anyway, the Corp has 1 fewer click to spend on his or her next turn. I gotta be honest, I don't think I like this. I don't want to spend 2 credits and a click to make the Corp lose a click. Maybe if I'm really desperately trying to stop some kind of fast advance thing. I don't understand what this is going to do.
There's got to be another thing. I mean, Scrubber is.
Okay, well.
So Scrubber, Wildside, Data Dealer.
Okay.
And there's the Street Peddler.
And Street Peddler. Okay. So Wildside is the one of those that's actually going to be pretty common.
Where would it be? Yeah, it stops fast, so it gives them 2 clicks for the next turn. So basically, it can't score out something unless they have it on a
fast advanced deck. Then that's like a never advanced deck, where they're not gonna be putting advancement tokens on a card before it gets scored. They're expecting to have those 3 clicks to score out their agenda. I don't want to trash on a card because I don't know what to do with it, but I don't know what to do with this card, and the economy of it does not seem to really match up.
$2. For $2, they lose a click on the next turn. What advantages does that give? I mean,
and one of your clicks to do that.
And one of your clicks. So you give up a click to have them lose a click. Where would you want to do that?
So we do have Jesminder's sister coming out as a connection in one of the upcoming packs.
Yeah.
And she's a connection that makes both players lose a click.
Well, then you're down to one click for the.
Yeah, and that's a pretty rough turn for the Corp. I'm not entirely sure I want to have a 2-click runner turn to do that.
Yeah. Is it beneficial unless you have a bunch of income that you get automatically for your
Sure,
turn?
if you got a bunch of drip income, maybe.
I think you need that card before this becomes popular.
Yeah, you definitely need that before this really sees anybody wanting to really do anything with it.
And then unless you have like Rachel or somebody else like that on your side where you
that's true.
3
you
clicks
could conceivably
or Hyperdriver.
Yeah, you could conceivably do something like that to get yourself some more clicks when you need them. That might not be terrible. I still don't think I want to give Populist Rally the deck slots for that.
Yeah.
At least not until I see
what her sister does.
At least not until I see some more usage. Yeah, getting put together.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I think that's in for the runners are quick. So we'll start with the Corp cards. We've got the first one, which is a 1-cost asset. It's a facility. It's called Advanced Assembly Lines. It says when you res Advanced Assembly Lines, gain $3. Not bad. So net 2. Says trash. Install a non-agenda card from HQ, paying its install cost. You cannot use this ability during a run. So it's an income card out of HP.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to drop an ash into a server, maybe. But
you can't pop it during a run.
But you can't pop it during a run. That's the whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to do it during. Does it give you kind of a free click?
So
is that the way you see this?
You're playing this in so assuming you're playing this in ETF.
Yes.
You are getting your credit back that you're going to spend to res it when you install it, if it's their first install for the turn. And when you use it, you're making a profit of 2 when you res it.
Yep.
When you trash it, now you're getting a credit because you're installing something
again
on the runner's turn, at least at the end of the runner's turn,
yep.
or some other period during.
That you can res, maybe an Eve that you can res or whatever.
Sure.
Which will help you res it with the 2.
Yeah, the extra little bit of money there might be pretty useful. That's okay. So say you're going to use this thing at the end of the runner's turn.
Yep.
You've broken even on the first install. You've made a profit of 2 credits.
You got the
plus
install.
the one for the Eve install is 3, and so you're basically breaking even on your Eve. Right away.
Yeah, right away. Yep.
That's pretty good. This card is only 1 to trash though, which is
the problem.
Which is pretty rough. And since you can't crack it during a run, then you can't really bait the runner into running into it and then finding out that
I can switch it for something else.
That it was something that was significantly harder to trash.
Yeah. You put this with Oaktown. What is it? The Oaktown that makes the trash cost go up by 3.
I suppose you could do something like that. Yeah.
I think it's Oaktown something.
Mm-hmm. It's probably a good thing that you can't install agendas with this because it would be a real rough agenda enabler. You basically just need to be protecting centrals. So that's sort of not really worth speculating on.
Yeah, Oaktown Grid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that this card is kind of interesting as maybe a card that maybe a newer player plays who isn't working from 100% complete playset.
Yeah.
I think that this is a card that a player like that maybe gets some use out of when they don't have maybe Breaker Bay or something else.
Yeah.
That maybe would be filling a similar role.
Yeah, I think like you said, use it at the end of the runner's turn
mm-hmm.
to res either a Eve and or Adonis
mm-hmm.
or some other type of asset like that, a Panic Empty, whatever.
Sure.
I mean, and you're ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you install it, you get the credit out of ETF. I mean, it's not a bad card. It's just a matter of how efficient really is it. So, yep, okay.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
You can use that to install ice.
Correct.
That doesn't actually... You don't even have to install it into that same server.
Correct. It gives you almost a free click.
Yeah, so there is some value to this card.
Yeah, I think it gives you almost a free click is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
But you don't need to use that click,
Yeah.
especially with ETF. It gives you another way to get a click, or an install click, or an install credit on the runner's turn. It gives you another way to do that.
Right, and that can be important. Interesting card, card.
Yep. Okay. Yours.
Mine. Next up, we have Lakshmi Smart Fabrics.
The goddess.
I believe that's correct, yes. This is a Hospira asset. It's 1 to res. No subtypes. 3 to trash. Whenever you res a card, place 1 power counter on Lakshmi Smart Fabrics. X hosted power counters. Reveal an agenda worth X points from HQ. The runner cannot steal copies of that agenda for the remainder of this turn. 3 influence.
I read this card about 8 bazillion times going, okay, this could be good, but you lose the hosted power counters on it. I mean, you burn them, right?
Right.
So it saves you for 1 turn, basically. Unless you got a whole stack of counters.
I'm trying to figure out where a card like this goes. My first thought goes to Cerebral Imaging. Some kind of a Cerebral Imaging deck that has no real intention of scoring out its agendas from the board, right? It's never really going to install those agendas for longer than it needs to just rush them out. So it only needs to protect them while they're in HQ. So it can use this to reveal a card from HQ that it intends to score on its next turn.
So like a 2-cost accelerated beta test.
Yeah, something like that. As a runner, I'm not real sure if I want to spend a click and 3 credits to get rid of this thing. Especially if it's behind even a vaguely taxing piece of ice, maybe even something as cheap as a roto turret or something.
Yeah,
this one's tough. This one is really hard for me to evaluate.
The thing is well, the power, it says place power counters too. It's not advancement counters.
Yeah, notably you can't like dedication ceremony.
Exactly. So you got to wait for those to basically stack up, or and that's the problem I see with this card is you get 2 on it, and then you say, okay, I want to spend them to prevent that 2-point agenda, and then it's gone, and it has to restack itself.
This is an interesting combo piece for a kind of player that's looking for a deck that really wants to sort of have that go off moment, right? That moment where everything sort of just fires.
Lines up, yeah.
Yeah, and that sort of player that likes that 7-point Cerebral Imaging deck where they're just going to win the game in one
team sponsorship,
right, in one big turn at the end of the game. I'm not that kind of player, so I have a hard time really wanting to jump on board with this card.
Yeah.
It is, however, featured in the flavor insert. One of the darker flavor inserts that FFG has done. I really would suggest reading it if you're
okay. I haven't read that one yet. Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. It's the IT department light for agendas.
I don't know what it is.
I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. Okay, we'll see what happens. I got the next one, which is a 0-cost operation. It's an alliance operation. It's called Product Recall. Art on this one's really good too. So of course, as any alliance, as long as you have 6 more non-alliance HB cards in your deck, this is 0 influence. So that's not too hard to get if you're splashing HB. Trash a res asset or upgrade. If you do, gain credits equal to its trash cost. I was thinking some of the best ones you'd want to use this with are like Riley 3D, marked accounts, or 0 to res, 5 to trash. So you can make some money with this card.
Sure, yeah. I had previously been...
And it's only 2 influence.
Mm-hmm.
But it's 0 if you have a...
Sure. I had previously been sort of thinking about ways to make this card work with sort of things that are already extant in HB. Eve Campaign was the first thing that came to mind, sort of gets your money back for your Eve Campaign.
For sure.
I didn't really like that strategy. I don't think that was necessarily that good of a way to go. But it's a 0-cost operation that makes money. That's a good thing to have.
It's always a good thing to have.
So yeah, if you can use this in such a way that it generates a bunch of money, and I think you're right. I think something like popping a marked accounts with this.
Marked accounts is the one that shoots to my mind.
Yeah.
You know, some of the other ones that are high trash costs. I mean, are let's see what the high trash costs are. So Crisium grids.
Sure, yeah, a Crisium grid might be a good target.
Sand, of course, but you're paying
I
6.
don't think you're going to be. I don't think you want to product recall the entire Sand City grid. If you've got a res Sand, you were looking for something else. I think
Chilo's actually the highest on that one. So
the board is a trash cost of like 8, right?
Ooh, actually. Yeah, that would be a good way to use these. Would be to kill off your board members.
I don't think anybody really wants to do that, but
there's still cost to res though. So I mean, your net gain. Reality 3D is the highest one, and the Chilo grid. You know, those are 6 term and hero and all that fun stuff. But yeah, I think that's a way to kill. I mean, it's another way to protect your executives.
Now riddle me this on the rules question here. Are trash costs an active formula like res costs?
So if things go up with like
if you got Oaktown City Grid, or if you got encryption protocols, or sweet Christmas.
All right, what?
Industrial genomics.
Yeah. Oh God, the trash cost. Oh my gosh, in industrial genomics.
Yeah,
like crazy.
I presume that trash costs
Would be additive.
I presume that trash costs are
additive.
active. Yeah, are
They're
active
additive.
formulas like res costs are.
Yep.
That's insanity.
You could have like a card that you could trash for 15 credits.
Bob, I'm going to see you later. I'm going to have to go put that deck together and just make some people miserable tonight.
Oh, I knew. As soon as he said, "Oh no," I was like, "Oh yeah, I know what he's thinking. It's IG."
Yeah, I don't know why it took me so long to get there, but that's a thing that's going to happen.
That's going to be scary. You think IG's bad right now with Museum of History?
Yeah.
Wait till you get that card in it.
Oh man. Okay. All right.
The wheels are spinning.
It's gonna. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, that's gonna be terrible.
Well, with that, we'll go on to another Kentucky card, folks. We'll go to Planana?
Palna.
Palna.
Yeah.
Palna Food Corp.
Benton and I had a discussion about the correct pronunciation.
Palna, really?
Yeah.
So the N's silent, basically.
The second A is very, very light.
Okay.
It's the macrons are a sort of strange translation convention.
Gotcha.
In the traditional English pronunciation, that would be Palane.
Palane.
With the macrons, but the translation from Hindi
Palna
puts it closer to Palna.
Palna.
Yeah.
Palna. All right. So, thank you, Nick. Palna Foods.
I'm an etymology nerd. I like words. Please go on.
Well, you're a writer, so sustainable growth. You know, like good Jinteki is. Mm-hmm. Of course, it's a division of Jinteki. It says the first time the runner draws a card, gain 1 credit. 45-15 standard deck. I've seen a lot of this lately on Jinteki.
Yeah, a lot of people are tossing this around. Ben was playing it at the store champs at game night as a I Hate Faust deck.
Yeah.
With Tsurugi and Komainu and
so you get him in your hand.
That deck draws. Anarchs are drawing a lot of cards, so you're making a lot of money. Identities that generate money and that generate clicks and card advantage and stuff are typically going to be good identities.
Yeah.
This one does suffer a little bit from sort of being kind of splitting the middle between being replicating perfections very hard to get into Glacier and something like Personal Evolutions focus on doing a lot of damage and exhausting the runner's resources. Because this is sort of going about exhausting the runner's resources from the opposite direction.
Yeah, trying to basically mill their deck.
Trying to flood them.
And then they don't have enough resources to play everything, so they have to eventually trash stuff into to their heap. So, and if they're playing Faust, it's even faster.
Right.
If you can survive the cycle before they survive the cycle.
If you can get that, you can get your Chronos protocol out and scored. You're probably
pop their heat.
Yeah, you're going to put yourself in a pretty good position.
Yeah, I can say. I mean, it's fun. I mean, the first time I played it, I was like, whoa! It's actually I threw down. I think I played my noise deck, and I threw Wildside just protocol first turn and chronotype, and he goes, "Oh, thank you." I'm like, "It's good for me too."
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't have a problem with it. So, but yeah, he had a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just tons of money. So, I think you'll see it. It's a strong idea. I think there needs some cards that need to help out a little bit, but we'll get to some of those too. I think there's still. I think people have to figure out how to hone that deck and really get it tight.
Yeah.
So,
I do like the futurism on the art on this card. The sort of growth space on the building.
On the building growing up
Yeah,
the
you
side.
see a lot of that in concept architecture.
Yep.
The actual functionality of it is somewhat questionable, but this doesn't look to be the biggest building in the world either.
No. It looks like a super futuristic greenhouse.
Yeah.
All right, you got the next one, which I think is a really cool. I mean, I wish they'd have like a whole play mat that would have all the different.
It would be neat to see a bunch of these buildings sort of all together to form a cityscape. Yeah. Next up, we have Halna Agriplex, a Jinteki asset facility, 1 to res. When your turn begins, each player draws 1 card, 5 trash cost, and 2 influence.
Well, speaking of one of the trash costs.
That's a high trash cost, and it automatically is enabling. It's automatically enabling your ID. My biggest concern for this card is that you're gonna put yourself on a clock by drawing 2 cards every turn and only having 3 clicks to spend them. But I'm probably being too worrying. I'm probably too worried.
What about if you ran like the Wayland from the core set that gives you the 2 extra cards in your
I still
research station?
I still don't want to put that card in my deck.
No, I'm just thinking.
Sure.
So then you get more cards in your hand.
Yeah.
Because that's good for like.
Yeah, I think
Ashigara.
Right. I think something like that could work.
Ashigari.
Maybe a Grail deck to.
So you have more Grail in your hand. Yeah.
The influence isn't so bad that you couldn't play this in some other kind of a deck that wants to do a bunch of.
What about IG?
Yeah, that could work because you're going to have some stuff that you want to throw into the bin, and this is going to be a good way to get some stuff into your hand to get into the bin
instead of having your Jackson.
Sure,
and then you're not spawning a click. You're
just that's actually not a terrible idea. That could be. There's some functionality there.
And it's high res cost.
Trash cost.
Or trash cost.
Yeah.
For your little track.
Yeah. Get your.
I think that could be a wicked combo. All right. Okay, so I've got the next piece of ice. It's a code gate. It's a 3 cost, 3 strength. It's 1 to res. Called Harvester, which it sounds sinister.
But it's not.
It's a fun little deck. It doesn't do any damage. You really trust us. The runner draws 3 cards and then discards down to the first subroutine is that. The runner draws 3 cards and discards down to his or her maximum hand size, and then again copies the same thing. And you can mill a deck pretty quickly this way.
If
it's only 1 influence.
Eating it, yeah. Definitely, it's 1 influence. If they've got some brain damage on them, this is real bad. This is not something that you want to check if you take even a couple points of brain damage because you're going to be losing cards.
Yeah. I mean, you just can't play enough cards. I mean, it really hurts you. It's easy to break though.
Yeah, I mean, you can yog through this. Right now, with Faust being absolutely everywhere, I think we have to talk about the Faust math in this card.
Okay,
so assume that you start your turn and you've got 6 or we'll say you have 7 cards in hand, right? You ended your last turn with 5 cards. You pancake party, now you're up to 7. This is, let's say, the outermost piece of ice on R&D.
It costs you 3 cards.
It's 3 cards to get it. It's 3 cards to go through that. Except that you're probably going to just let one of those subs fire.
You think so?
I think you.
But then you have to just go down to 5 cards.
You would be but you're going to be at
7.
Right. You start your turn with 7 cards.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to spend 1 to strength, Or actually, you're probably going to spend a data sucker token.
Probably, and then spend 2.
And then you can spend 2. Then you can spend 2 cards, and now you're at 5.
Let one of them fire.
Well, so if you spend 2 and you're at 5 cards, right? You basically are breaking even.
Yep.
Alternatively, you let one of those you use one of your cards going down to 6. You let one of those cards fire. You go up to 9 briefly,
and then drop down to 5.
And then you're dropping down to 5.
You're jumping 4 cards in the heap.
You're dropping, yeah. So you're tossing a bunch of cards to do that. There are circumstances in which you let subroutines. There are circumstances in which a Faust deck lets subroutines on this card resolve.
Yeah.
Because as you have less cards in your hand, that becomes an easier thing to want to do.
Yeah. This behind with a Kamino sitting behind it would suck.
Yeah, people have talked. I've definitely heard some discussion of that. That's
stacking these with a Kamino. Oh my god.
It does. It's combos nicely with other stuff. It's not immediately positional, but this is definitely a positional piece of ice.
Yeah, but that's a funny thing with a lot of cards now and decks or corp decks that I run. If you can get through like a max decks, the first time they levy, if you can get through that, and maybe if they have 2, the second time you probably won the game.
Yeah, if you can outlast those decks, you can generate wins that way. But that's still a stiff order. Yeah,
it's still. That's usually the way I've won against some of those decks like that.
Sure,
is you just basically they're out of cards and there's nothing left.
I've been in that situation. It's bad.
It's like, okay, yeah, I can't get in. I can't use Faust. I can't do anything. That's my only breaker. I've destroyed all their other breakers, and the Faust is it. So, anyway, okay. Interesting card. You got the next agenda.
All right, we have an NBN agenda. This is Remote Data Farm. Difficulty is 4, and it's 2 agenda points. It's an expansion. The text on it is, your maximum hand size is increased by 2.
So it's the world is yours in an agenda. Kind of.
Well, it's better. That gives you 2. It's a research station in agenda form.
Yeah.
I'm underwhelmed.
It's hard to justify a 2/4. Explodapalooza. You're competing with Explodapalooza, NAPD.
I don't understand what this card is for.
Well, I think it's for this card coming up next.
Okay.
That's the only thing I could think of.
I'm not playing this agenda to enable that upgrade. Especially if I'm already playing NBN that has the best agendas in the game.
Well, okay, that's one thing we can say. This agenda may not be the strongest one in NBN's shed.
Yeah. This is something I've seen talked about in different game design before, but if you have a faction or a strategy that's sort of dominant, like any Fast Advance or Butcher Shop or any of those constructions, putting out bad things in that same play style doesn't reduce the power of that play style.
Yeah.
Because
they're not going to use it.
Right, because I just don't play this card.
Yeah.
Maybe this card is more interesting in a draft environment.
Yeah, in a draft environment, or I would say in a Grail deck, because Ian has that nasty World is Yours deck.
His Grail deck can do some. His Grail deck can do some stuff, and maybe this is somewhere that can go.
Because I thought he ran NAPDs in there at one time. I thought that's what he ran because he had the.
That would have been Primo's wanted list.
Yeah, it was Primo's wanted. I thought he had so if you run these instead, so now you've got a potential hand size of 9. Mm-hmm. You have all the Grail.
Sure, you've got a.
You have a whole.
Yeah, your Grails are gonna do some work.
That's only where I could see this, unless there's a way for us to benefit.
I'm not importing Ashigaru or IQ.
It's too expensive. They're 3
just to make this thing work.
IQ would be okay. I could see IQ being a splash because it's only 2, I think.
I'm not importing it into.
Okay, you're just not happening.
Yeah, I can't get excited about this card.
Okay. All right, sounds good. All right, so then I got the next one, which is why I think you might want to have this card. It's a 0 cost Therese upgrade. It's an ambush, though. It's called Disposable HQ. It's NBN. It's only 1 influence. It says if disposable HQ is accessed from R&D, the runner must reveal it. When the runner accesses disposable HQ. You may add any number of cards from HQ to the bottom of R&D. It's 5 to trash. Again, another good target for your little trick, Nick.
Yeah. Okay.
So okay, let's say you got one of these scored. Mm-hmm. So now you got a hand size of, let's say, 7.
Sure.
You got a bunch of... Is this the way they're getting around Jackson being rotated? That's the only way I can think of this being...
I think we are going to see a bunch of things that have Jackson-like effects that are definitely not Jackson.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be something that we have to see and we have to consider. I don't necessarily think this is specifically intended to be a Jackson-like effect, but I do think you're right that it's for shuffling agendas, getting them out of your hand and into R&D.
I see that this is not a horrible thing because runners are not going. They're going to run into this. They're
is
not going to trash
it.
it.
This is an awful thing to trash.
And the thing is so you don't get your Jackson opening hand, mm-hmm. but you have 2 or 3 agendas, right? Let's say you have 2 in your hand and you're like, oh crap, you know.
Sure.
You know, so you throw this down on the thing, thinking they think it's an Astro script. They run into it. No, you throw the stuff you don't want.
Yeah, I think that maybe this could see. I think that maybe there's some functionality.
I mean, it's not horrible.
No. This is a better and this is a more playable card than Remote Data Farm.
Yes. But I mean, I could see this being like, hey, our Jackson Light. Mm-hmm. You know, it doesn't give us a card draw, but it gets those things out of our hand.
Notably, CBI raid triggers on a successful run. So if they CBI raid you, you don't get to use your disposable HQ.
Correct. You'd have to have that on the table.
Yeah, it's an amusing little... Well, they're not going to access... Because they're not going to access...
You're not going to access the root of the
the CBI are well aware of your disposable HQ.
They've already tracked those down.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I think you're right. I think that this is an interesting way to defend HQ. Mm-hmm. And as we see less Siphon and less decks that want to damage HQ for the sake of not necessarily hoping to pull anything valuable out of it, that this card becomes a more viable direction to go.
You said something really interesting. Yeah, I see most of the games won now are almost exclusively. I mean, I don't know what the percentage is. Deep dig R&D of some sort.
That's a strategy that is fairly viable against any fast advance. As viable as any strategy is. And with lessened impact of criminals running around, maybe we'll see more. Maybe we'll see more of that as Geist gets some toys.
Yep.
And we do still have Nero coming out.
Yeah, Nero.
So this is an interesting card.
Yeah, I think it does some things that you may want. Like, hey, you have your 3 Jacksons in your deck, but you don't get those. You throw this in here. It's a bait card. Mm-hmm. If anything, you throw it out into a server and let them run it.
Sure.
And then if they do, great. I'll throw my agendas.
I think if you're trying to defend HQ in a deck that's running maybe Mumba Temple, so you don't have a lot of ice slots, this is an interesting alternative.
Yep. Okay. Yours.
All right. We have New Construction. It's a Wayland agenda, 4 difficulty, 2 points. It's public, so you install New Construction face up. Whenever you advance New Construction, you may install a card from HQ in a new server, and res that card, ignoring all costs, if there are 5 or more advancement tokens on New Construction. This is a cool card.
This card,
I'm excited. This is a very interesting card. There's a lot you can do with this. It's the immediate threat that I see is that you are simply not going to have that many things to install, because you have to install them into new servers.
Yeah.
That means that this isn't installing ice, this is almost exclusively installing assets. But if maybe you're playing a very ice-like Gagarin deck, there was some talk of one of those lately.
You got the public support. You throw the public support in there.
Do some public support. Museum of History, your pad campaigns, and if you can res and ignore all the costs, that's potentially real big.
Yeah, you install this dedication server.
Dedication ceremony.
And then you start going crazy.
So that's an interesting.
In Gagarin, it could be really crazy.
Sure. So I'm interested. I'm interested to see. I'm hoping that this sees some play. I want to see what kind of decks want a card like this.
Yeah. I think it'd have to be in Gagarin. It's my best.
And I do really like Wayland having gained this sort of public agendas mechanic. This is an interesting way to do over advance agendas, to tack these extra abilities onto them. This is a cool design space.
Yeah. What about it doesn't say you can't do ice, but
you can do ice, but you have to put everything into a new server,
which would be okay. Hey, you basically set up another server that's like got some curtain wall over top of it.
You could do something like that, sure.
I mean, where some big piece of ice,
sure, and then
is a pain in the butt
pray
to
that
run.
they don't have a David ready.
Yeah, I could see it in Blue Sun too.
Blue Sun might, Blue Sun,
because you get the res thing and you pop it back in your hand.
Yeah, that's possible. That something like that could work. Very cool card.
And very good. All right. So I've got the card that breaks the game. The craziness. All right. So it's a 4-cost asset. It's the MUMBAD Construction Company because Wayland's so good at building stuff. Of course, it's an asset. It says when your turn begins, place 1 advancement token on MUMBAD Construction Company. It says 2 credits. Move 1 advancement token from MUMBAD Construction Company to a face-up card. Well, guess what? Any of your public agendas become scary once they get on the board. If this has any advancement tokens.
Yeah, I really like this card. I wanna play around with something to utilize this card.
You just got to protect it. It's like a root or anything like that. You got to be able to protect it.
Sure, you would typically need to be able to protect it. Although you only need this necessarily on the board for 1 turn if you're just looking to fast advance with it. Maybe you're playing like Titan Transnational and you want to fast advance out your Project Atlases.
Yeah, Atlases, yep. Mm-hmm. You get 1 of those on there, install two things, click over, $2, bam.
Yeah, and just wait for the runner to do something. Timing structure in Netrunner makes this card very interesting. If you're expecting that clot from the runner, because you simply need to say you're trying to score out an Atlas. You install it, you wait for response. If they don't clot right then, you can advance and hold priority to... And
then you can put all your money out there.
Yeah, to finish it out.
And basically spend your because there's no click cost here, so
right,
you can spend $6 or whatever to get all the advancement tokens moved.
Right.
Yep. You can actually do it once you've installed it. If you have enough tokens on here, you would, as long as they don't clot immediately. Then
yes,
you wouldn't have to advance it once.
I suppose it. Let's see.
If you had 6, whatever.
Does the corp hold priority after their install action? I believe that they do, right?
Yeah.
So you would simply need to throw your agenda down, and pay your 6 credits, and score your agenda.
You could do it that way.
Yeah. If you've got 3,
because there's no extra click in.
Yeah, if you've got 3 advancement counters on this from maybe a dedication ceremony.
That card with dedication ceremony.
Yes, absolutely. If I'm playing dedication ceremony if I'm playing this in a deck, I'm definitely playing dedication ceremony.
The other way I look at this, okay, if you don't have agendas and you have some big piece of ice that you can advance, Hadrian's Wall.
I suppose.
In a run.
That's actually good. That's a pretty good point.
So like the runner thinks, oh, I got the money, blah blah blah. No, you don't, because I'm gonna throw this.
Yeah, maybe there's an Orion on top of this, and you're at least getting a discount to spend those 2 credits to bring that online. It has to
be face up though, so it has to be a res piece of ice. It can't be a constellation. It has to be face up.
Move 1 advancement. Oh, to a face-up card. Okay, so this
doesn't. Has to be the Hadrian
okay, so
Wall
notably, this doesn't do much for your
constellations
for your Project Atlas.
Yeah.
But it does still work on your public agendas.
It has to be public, or you have to play Cast and Call.
Sure.
To score an agenda.
Right.
Yep. That's the only problem is it has to be face-up card.
So a little bit of extra work, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, I can see Cast and Call being put into a transactional.
Possibly, yeah.
I mean, that's not that unusual. Okay. So I've got a pretty good 2/4, I think. It's called Corporate Sales Team, because every corporation needs a sales team. It's 2-4 agenda. Its expansion is a subtype. When you score a corporate sales team, place 10 credits on it. When each player's turn begins, take 1 credit from corporate sales team. So it's like a nice little hedge fund over 5 turns. Twice.
I definitely like this card. Cards that make money are good cards.
Yeah, it's better than Corporate War, I think.
It's definitely better than Corporate War. I've got a fair number of new players that I'm starting to introduce into the game.
Yeah.
And I'm recommending this as a data pack for them to pick up because of this agenda, because it's a solid neutral agenda that as a 4-2, lots of corporations can at least benefit from.
Yep. Harder to score, but a great 4-2.
Yeah. This is a very workaday card. Maybe there's not a whole lot of real weird rules interactions with it, but that's not the worst thing in the world. This card is a solid card that makes some money. If you need to put a 2-point agenda in your deck, you could do a lot worse than this card.
Yeah, exactly. I think you'll see this played a lot. I mean, especially in those decks that you want to make where they play Profiteering and all those crazy cards when they're just looking for credits.
Yeah, I think if you're playing a deck like that needs to make money with its agendas, that's probably a pretty good option.
Yep. Okay, you get the last card.
The last one. All right, we have Pad Factory. 2 to res. It's a neutral asset alliance facility. This card costs 0 influence if you have 3 pad campaigns in your deck. That's a neat little. I like that. I like that condition. Otherwise, it's 2 influence. Trash cost is 3, and the main ability on it is click. Place 1 advancement token on a card. You cannot score that card until your next turn begins.
Love this card. I love the opportunities with it.
Tell me about it. Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, I think with if you're running Grindles.
Okay.
Grindles or the reversed accounts.
Sure.
That could be really nasty. I mean, because you don't have to score it, right?
Sure.
You just click, you get a free money, and they don't have any money, or they have a bunch of money, you have no money, free advancement, they lose $4, whatever. I mean, those type of things. I see that being a potential. Or if you've got in Jinteki, I was thinking, because Jinteki runs a lot of pad campaigns, especially Black Tree.
Okay.
So they run you can usually see 3 pad campaigns, not unlikely.
Very rarely do you see a deck that uses pad campaign that doesn't go 3 in on it.
Yes, exactly. You're not running 2, very rarely. But at least I run the pad campaigns that way. So you can advance traps for Trick of Lights.
Yeah, save yourself a little bit of money.
With no money.
Yeah, you get your Trick of Light going on.
So that's where I was thinking. Whenever you can get a free advancement counter,
Well, this is a advancement counter that's discounted by 1 credit.
Yeah.
I like this. I like this with MUMBAD Construction Company because you're putting more advancement counters on it. I like it with your advanceable ice.
Yep.
Because it doesn't need to put those cards anywhere particular.
Yeah.
Or those advancement counters.
Yeah,
rather.
yeah. So the Constellation Ice and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Notably, it doesn't have to put them on face-up cards.
Nope.
Notably, it doesn't even have to put them on cards that care about having advancement counters on it. If you really need to go that deep into the well of where you can put advancement counters.
You're right. You're right. It does not say a card that has to be advanced.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there needs to be a errata. I mean, or just a clarification because.
Well, no, because
normally it says where it can be advanced.
Sure, but there's a number of other cards that allow you to get advancement tokens onto stuff.
So you can advance a snare.
You can advance a snare.
That's what that card says.
Yes, absolutely.
That makes Jinteki very scary.
Is it Tenon that gets an advancement token if the runner doesn't?
Tenon.
Run?
Yeah, so I can see that in Tenon being another way.
So maybe you're doing something like that to put advancement counters on cards that don't want advancement counters. That's a weird thing that you can do, but maybe that's a thing that you want to do.
If you're running Trick or Light, you just want the advancement counters anywhere you want them.
Yeah, I think that's probably...
And that's a trick...
that's something that you're probably...
Sorry, it is a trick, but it's a trick of life. So let's go through this real quick. Back up, and what card would you want to play? What card is screaming out besides the one that you just said, "Oh my god"? That card, product recall.
The card other than product. The card other than
no,
product recall
I think product recall. I think is interesting.
Let's have a look here.
I want to play Planet Foods.
I've seen it get some play already, and I think that there's some potential there. Yeah,
I kind of like the reverse mill idea.
Mm-hmm. I want to play something with MUMBAD Construction Company, because I like cards that generate game wins, and I think that that's a card that can move you into a winning game state.
Yeah. Well, I think if you could get there's a thought in my mind with that card with you play Casting Call with a Beal, right?
Okay.
And you stack this thing up, and they're going, well, what are you going to use this with? There's no public agendas in NBN, right? So you throw and they haven't seen the casting. You throw a Casting Call down, and you basically have just a bunch of money.
Well, you're going to need to get all those advancement tokens onto the construction company first.
Well, exactly. So, even if you get 7, right? So if you get 7, you score 5-point Beal
for 14 credits.
Which is not bad. It's almost like having a cycle in your hand.
Sure. That's a lot of combo pieces, but if it goes off, I do really like it.
I'm just thinking,
No.
I mean, you have that in there, and they're going, well, what the heck he's got? Why has he got that in there? And yeah, that you've got to protect it and stuff. Because then you wouldn't have to. You could literally score that out of hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could be something that would be. I think that there's some potential there.
Okay. Yeah. So Mumbai. All right. So I got that card. So back to the art though. There's some good art. I mean, we didn't mention a lot of them. I mean, but what's your favorite piece of art, Nick?
My favorite piece of art actually is going to be Product Recall again.
Really?
Yes.
I think it's beautiful. I mean, it's the one on the. It's actually the one on the pad.
It is
no.
The one.
It was on the release note.
That's right.
It was on the release note.
It was on the website. If you look real close, and I love those little details, that is a Bioroid.
Yeah, with her little eyes, because she's got silver eyes.
Yeah, she's got the mirror shade. Yeah. She's got the mirror shade eyes. Mm-hmm. I like the number of SWAT guys that have been called in to recall this Bioroid.
This little Eve model.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here, but I dig that. That's something that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. It's good.
So that's my pick for art.
So you did the Bioroid. I'm going to go with the Corporate Scandal, the bad clones. I think that art is amazing. It's a bad Nisei.
Somebody spilled something into the Nisei tank, and things went wrong.
I mean, that's amazing. They took the whole idea is awesome. Mm-hmm. So okay, well, so those are favorite art. So what do you think, just meta wise? Do we see anything that's going to fix Faust?
Right now,
that's the problem right now. Everyone's screaming about is Faust.
Palma has some Faust hate. I think we're getting. The corps are getting closer to having some tools in hand that let them better deal with Faust. I don't think Faust is an unbeatable deck. I think it's just sort of an oppressive deck, and it's taking up a lot of the percentage of the meta, which is disheartening.
Keenan does a good job with him. Data Raven and a Keenan is a pretty good way to get rid of Faust. I mean, that's the way I found. That's what I usually have is a Data Raven with Keenan sitting in the server.
Sure.
So pop that, and then so you've lost your Faust.
Mm-hmm.
Until they recycle it through again with same old thing.
Or get another, or draw into another one.
Yeah.
I think that one of the other ways that Faust dominance can start to be mitigated is by cards like Tech Trader that make other identities and other strategies of being a runner more viable. I think a lot of Faust's viability is that it is a first order optimal strategy right now, and that
easiest path
it's the easiest way to win games. All you have to do is keep doing that same thing. There's not a lot of motivation to do something that's more risky when this is already safe and wins lots of games.
Yep. And it's already proven.
Let's be clear, I'm playing a wizard deck right now. I'm just as guilty as anybody else.
If you want to win, congratulations, you did win a Sword Championship.
I did win a Sword Championship.
So I mean, that's a good thing, yeah. I just think I just hear all the it needs to be on the most wanted list, blah blah blah, and I don't know if that solves the problem sometimes.
I think Faust and Wildside on the most wanted list is probably a pretty good decision to make.
Just making one more influence each.
It cuts the influence of that deck, which is already pretty tight on influence because it already plays. It already is playing clone chips and parasites.
So then you can't get both.
They just do not have the space to do absolutely everything, because that's what a lot of people are sort of critiquing that deck about, is that it's a deck that has an answer to everything, and it has that answer cheaply.
Yep.
And I think that putting those cards on a most wanted list would disincentivize having that toolbox that answers absolutely everything, and expands some, and it makes other strategies more interesting.
It's funny that you still see clone chips, and you only need one or two of them.
I don't think Clone Chip is ever going away. Clone Chip is one of the best cards in the game.
Yeah. But did they undercost that from the original? I mean,
I don't think that they did. I think that they maybe made it a little bit more efficient than it necessarily needed to be. But I think with the most wanted list, I think it's right where it wants to be now. I think in a Shaper deck, you're happy paying 3 points of influence for a card that you're going to be using all the time. And I think that 3 influence cost out of Shaper makes it a tough call to make, but a card that you still want to include.
Yeah. You just don't include 3, you may include
you probably go 1 or 2 now.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. No, I mean, because it seems like everybody, because if you can bounce the Faust once, like, they make a bad run or whatever, you've got one answer for it. The problem is then they can clone chip it right back in, and no harm, no foul almost.
Yeah, that deck recovers from things very quickly.
Yeah, and that's I think that's the issue, and I think clone chip again. I think if you don't have clone chips so cheap, I mean it's only 1 to play, it's 2 influence, 3 now with most wanted out of in faction or whatever. But I don't know. It's an ongoing debate. I don't play Faust. I'll play Eater occasionally, but I don't play Faust necessarily. I probably should, but I play Noise. So I mean, he doesn't. I'm not running more. I'm more of the multi-mill.
Sure. I will. I don't like playing the absolute just most common meta deck. When I gave my deck list to Sarah at the last tournament, it was just labeled. My deck was labeled another effing wizard deck.
Yeah, another effing wizard.
Because it had the titanically interesting deck building decision of running 3 Faust instead of 2.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm living. I'm
living on the edge.
Yeah, I'm living on the edge here.
So what did you play corp-wise?
I played ETF. It was pretty similar to Food.
Okay.
But I was running MUMBAD Temple in place of Breaker Bay.
Okay, so to make your
rezzing pretty much everything that much cheaper. Yeah. I really like it. I think it's an interesting change.
Okay.
To make to that deck, and it's something that I had a lot of fun playing.
Good.
It's a very no nonsense deck. There's no tricks or anything in it. Just play Netrunner.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I like. I mean, where you have to make the runs, and you still that's how you win the game. Mm-hmm. It's not that you make the runs or you make those critical things where you need to make those decisions. So it's always good. I don't see things changing for a little while anyway. At least through regionals.
Yeah, it remains to be seen when the next sort of most wanted list update happens.
Yeah.
I'm sort of hoping that the most wanted list can maybe be a little bit more fluid than traditionally banned lists and restricted lists tend to be, just because of the way that it's sort of being presented. I sort of read that as being an indication that maybe this list is going to be a little bit faster to react to changes in the meta. That said, obviously you don't want it changing every couple of months or so.
Well, I mean, it changes every pack gets released almost. You know what I mean? The meta changes to some degree every pack you get, which is part of the LCG, but I think they'll be pretty quick to react, because I think when they had Game of Thrones, I mean they had a restricted list that was updated twice a year, 3 times a year,
right?
I mean, so it was.
I feel like that's probably a little bit too slow, but this is a game that I commit a fair number of hours to every week.
Yeah, like all of us.
Sure. So I'm probably more focused on that stuff than somebody who's not, who's just playing casually and who's aware of the most wanted list because they're building their deck lists online. So I think that sort of hyper sensitivity to the meta is maybe not actually intended or necessary.
Yeah, I did see a good errata or whatever suggestion on how to fix Faust is make those when they bump strength or they break subroutines that it's a random discard.
I saw that.
I think that's not it would make it a little bit better for
If Faust's activation cost was deal 1 net damage to yourself, that'd be interesting. It'd be I mean, you'd have that sort of threat of triggering your own I've had worse, which would actually be a boon to you. But if it was a random discard instead, I don't know. I find that debate to be sort of academic, and I think that the real solution is just put Faust and Wildside on the most wanted list.
Now, who would have thought? When the game started, who would have thought Wildside would have got to a point to be on a banned or restricted? You know what I mean?
Whoever wrote Pancake Party.
Yeah, we have Pancake Party, which probably that's why I think everyone said is Pancakes is more of the issue than anything else because there's no downside now.
I have this pet theory
that
Adjusted Chronotype was written with the intention of letting Anarchs have 2 lose-a-click cards in play at the same time.
Yeah, like Hard at Work and Wildside.
Right. I don't know. I don't think that that's what ever happened with it. I can't imagine that anybody, any playtester opens up their Adjusted Chronotype and says, "All right, time to make my Hard at Work deck."
Hey, I did. Hey,
I'm aware. Yes, yeah.
You know me. I was like, oh, maybe I could get this. No, it doesn't work.
But something about that card just sort of feels like that was the intention of that card. But that's not what anyone was going to do with it.
Yeah, I still want to get Career Fair, Hard at Work, and Adjusted Chronotype. Get 3 Hard at Works, you get 6 money at the start of your turn. I know it's dreaming, but one day that card's going to be good. Go back, it's going to be good. Anyway, all right. Well, enough with the meta talk, guys. We appreciate you guys watching. Sorry, Josh and John were not here, but we had a great time with Nick, and thanks for Nick for showing up again, as always. I think we're going to have to give you a part of the team now. So, with that, I'm Bob.
Nick.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Take care.